What it do, bruh? Talk of the town, Nintendo, Doc Trey still holding it down, still make the best games, and you know this, bro. It's the truth. You don't like it, you can have that seatbelt.
So with the Nintendo Switch 2 launch imminent, a lot of people are looking to resell or trade in and get rid of their original Nintendo Switch. Seeing as how the Nintendo Switch 2 is backwards compatible with Nintendo Switch 1 games, so there's not really on the surface a need to hold on to that Nintendo Switch. But what if I told you there actually is a major reason to maybe hold off selling that Nintendo Switch for the foreseeable future? But before we get things started, we're still on the road to 20,000 subscribers. If you're into Nintendo Switch 2 content and insight and are not yet subscribed to the channel, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the channel. And also let me know what you guys think in the comment section about the topic. So a lot of people are getting rid of their Nintendo Switches. You got, a lot of companies such as GameStop who's giving you supposed deals and incentives for trading in old games and also your systems and Nintendo Switches towards Nintendo Switch 2 games and Nintendo Switch 2 hardware. And also even showing you how to transfer your data, like assisting you in transferring your Switch 1 data over to Switch 2 for a more seamless transition. And that's nice. But there's one major thing that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about when it comes to getting rid of your original Nintendo Switch. And a lot of this is going to depend on what your library is looking like on the original Nintendo Switch and also what kind of games you plan to buy on the Switch 2. So the major reason why people are getting rid of or planning to get rid of their original Nintendo Switch is the fact that the Switch 2 is backwards compatible. Not only is it backwards compatible, people are assuming or hoping at least that these games will run better and potentially look better on the Nintendo Switch 2 when running just regular on the system. And I'm not even talking about the confirmed update patches that Nintendo has announced. I'm just talking in general. People generally expect the games, Switch 1 games, when running on the Switch 2 to at the very least run at a more stable frame rate for those games that were developed with an unlocked frame rate. So people are seeing it as what need do I have to hold on to this Switch 1? Well, there's actually a kind of big reason, and that big reason is storage. So as you guys know, the Nintendo Switch 2 uses a entirely new version of a micro SD card, using micro SD Express. And these cards have a much faster transfer and read speed than the current micro SD cards that are used on the Nintendo Switch. And so much so that they are pretty much incompatible with the Nintendo Switch 2. Like, you can't save games, you can't load games onto them. The only thing you can, I guess, really use them for is like to display pictures and play back videos or something like that. Like, you pretty much can't even use it. The standard micro SD cards that the Switch uses on the Nintendo Switch 2. You need this newer version. Well, the issue with that is not only are these new micro SD Express cards pretty expensive, but they're not that readily available. And size-wise, they're not that big yet. So you're going to need, pretty much one thing, depending on what type of games you're going to buy, you're already going to need one of these out the gate. Like, if you plan on buying a lot of third-party games on the Switch 2, you're going to need to buy a micro SD card Express very soon, if not at launch, right? Depending on how many games you plan to buy. Well, that's just accounting for the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, if you get rid of your Nintendo Switch 1, when you transfer all that data over, especially if you own a lot of indie games, or more specifically, or if you're the type that was the digital only people that only wanted to buy digitally, that's going to eat up even more of your save data and your all of that stuff on your Switch 2 just by transferring over to the Switch 2. So if you bought nothing but digital games on the Nintendo Switch and you're planning on playing those games on the Switch 2, you're going to need to buy probably multiple micro SD expresses just for your Switch 1 games. And like I said, those cards are not very cheap. Well, unless you get the Walmart edition. And pretty much the money that you would have gotten for trading in your Switch 2 or potentially selling, or trading in your Switch or potentially selling your Switch, will get overlapped by the fact that you're going to need to buy a bunch of these new cards to even play those Switch 1 games on your Switch 2. So it kind of defeats the purpose. So in a way, it's probably better to just hold on to your Switch 1 for games that don't have any enhancement on the Switch 2 anyway. So like if you own a bunch of indie games, or if you own a bunch of Switch 1 downloadable games that aren't going to receive an update or look the same on the Switch 2, you might as well just play them on the Switch 1 and save yourself a lot of storage space. Because if you transfer all of those games over, you're going to have to buy multiple, and I mean multiple, micro SD express cards. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I don't know. Like, I know a lot of people are going to trade their Switch 1 in to give them more money towards the Switch 2. But if you end up having to buy another micro SD express card or more just to even hold your Switch 1 games, that kind of defeats the purpose. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section.